I think that teaching is the best job in the world, and I have always felt that way. Every day when I come to work, I'm glad that I'm here. I enjoy it. There's hardly ever a day when I wish I was doing something else. And I think I like teaching for a couple of reasons. One of them is I get to work with people. I get to work with young people, and it is a lot of fun. And I know a lot of people my age who would never say that work is fun. That's not one of the words I would use to describe, but that's part of it. Plus, I get to talk for a living, and I enjoy that too. And I get to do history. I have the things that have always interested me is the human story. So when I was in college, I majored in history and I majored in literature because they're both kind of two sides to the human story. I guess people and what they do are much more interesting to me than anything else. Maybe because I'm a person. I still use. I think the one that you did was the Enlightenment assignment, where I assigned people to be one of about a dozen Enlightenment philosophers, thinkers, important individuals, and uh, ask students to kind of role play that on paper. And so the idea was to provide a little bit of biographical information. Is this the right one?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Provide a little bit of biographical information, outline what it is that the person's thinking was, why it was Enlightenment thinking, and then to get into a role play mode where you had to apply that to a current problem. And so one of the ways that I've encouraged students to do that over the years is, if you're putting yourself in that character, is to do it almost as a fictional piece, to write it in character. And some of the best papers I've gotten, and I think yours is one of them, have been where people actually put themselves in that role and did a little creative writing and creative thinking with it. Gosh, that's a hard question now because I have read, I've read probably 1,600 of those papers over the years. So I don't know that any particularly stand out that I specifically remember. But I do know that over the years, some students have been really creative with them and have done a really good job. I've had some people even, like in the case of James the First, write them in an attempt at Elizabethan English or something like that, which is always kind of fun. What I do know about Pompeii is that it was a resort community. It was, a place on the coast where the Roman patricians would go for vacation, kind of have their summer houses and things like that. So I suspect it was a place designed around people having a good time and people having fun and people vacationing. So there would have been those types of activities there. what that meant for the Romans, I'm sure is a little more gruesome and R-rated than what we think of when we go to Disneyland for vacation these days. But I think that kind of would have been what, and when you look at some of the murals on the walls and things like that, they kind of indicate a little more of a pleasure palace sort of attitude about Pompeii than you get elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think they probably regarded it as an enormous disaster on top of a series of disasters that have been happening around that time. This is late first century. Late first century was a difficult time for the Roman Empire anyway. They had a series of, I call them the six rotten emperors. I don't remember the specific names of them all, but Caligula and Nero were there. Really poor job of governing Rome, lots of corruption, lots of problems. This was, Pompeii occurred relatively soon after they destroyed the temple in Jerusalem, which was, I think, 66, 67 AD. It occurred during the height of persecution of Christians. At that time, it occurred about within a few years of this episode where Rome itself burned down. They had a great fire in Rome. So I think they probably viewed this as another huge catastrophe. And in the mindset of people at that time, I suspect they were wondering, because these were not scientific people, and these were people that were much more superstitious about things, I suspect they were wondering, what did we do that caused this to happen to us? And if I were to make a guess and investigate it a little bit, I'll bet you there were Christians out there that felt that this was some kind of retaliation for the persecution of Christians, Romans who felt that this had to do with the abandonment of Roman values and religions and things like that. A lot of the same kind of things that you get from some people when there are big natural disasters today. The big earthquakes being a punishment from God for whatever happened. AIDS is a punishment from God for our acceptance of homosexuality, things like that. I think you would have seen a lot of the same things.
I totally agree.
Not to mention property loss and loss of life and all of those things along with it.
Thank you so much for your time and insight. It's very helpful.
Always glad to help out.